Hello, everyone. I'm Andrea Wood, the CEO of ACCP, and I want to welcome you all to Talking Purpose. If you've heard about this before, it's a series about people and the paths they've taken, the lessons they've learned, and what they've discovered along the way in terms of leading with purpose. So today, I'm really excited to be joined by Jerome Tennille. He's the manager for strategic partnerships and community impact at Navy Federal Credit Union. And today we're going to spend a few minutes getting to know Jerome's journey in corporate social impact, the experiences he's had that have shaped his leadership, and the advice that he'd share with others as they're navigating through this work in a rapidly changing environment. So I want to thank you, Jerome, for joining us. And with that, let's get started. So, Jerome, thank you again for joining us. Tell us a little bit about your role at the Navy Federal Credit Union and your company's CSR focus.
Well, thank you. And I just first want to thank you for having me today. So at Navy Federal, I'm one of the leaders on the Strategic Partnerships and Community Impact team, which is our team that really oversees and governs our philanthropic giving, our strategic partnerships, volunteer engagement programs, and all of our enterprise give back events for team members. Here at Navy Federal, we talk about that as Navy Federal Serves. And so in my role, I oversee a team of program managers that lead many of our enterprise-wide programs that enable and equip team members across the credit union to live out our core value of championing community. And so as a member-owned, not-for-profit credit union that serves the military and their families, our primary focus for our programming is really focused on the military community, and more specifically, where we are uniquely equipped and resourced to make the biggest impact for the military community as a financial institution. So we're really focused on the financial health and readiness of the military community, affordable housing, and also transitioning service member employment, as just to name a few of the focus areas for us.
Great. And I'm curious just about you and your journey. How did you get started in corporate citizenship?
So I took maybe a non-conventional path. I served in the military for 5.5 years. And my first role outside of the military service was actually not in corporate social impact or corporate responsibility. My first role in corporate responsibility was actually in the hospitality and travel industry. But most of the skills, the knowledge, my interest in CSR or corporate social impact, it actually came prior to that when I was actually working for a national 501c3. And that was actually my first exposure to the field, given that we worked a lot with corporate donors.
Yeah, it's interesting in this field. We get a lot of folks who come at it from different career pathways. So I always love to know about people's journeys and how they ended up where they were. But yeah, very sort of non-traditional ways of getting to this field. And so, related to that, the field is evolving rapidly. And I'm curious what you think about, what are the most important skills and knowledge that a CSR professional needs to sort of stay ahead of the curve and make sure that they are successful?
It's a great question. If you were to ask me this question many years ago, I would have said something to the effect of project management, understanding grant-making frameworks, strategy, event planning, being a great communicator, and being able to navigate internal, the internal dynamics of a company that is also designed to make profit. But my answer today is maybe a little different. I think over the past 4 to 5 years, we've experienced a lot of change. And so rather than talking about a skill set or a piece of knowledge, I want to talk about the role that I think that we play right now, and then perhaps backing up into that, like what are the things that you actually need to do that successfully. And so I think about the role as a corporate social impact professional as more of a sense maker internally for my internal stakeholders. And when I talk about sense maker, it is making sense of things that are adjacent to, that might be very ambiguous situations, that might be the result of external factors, geopolitical dynamics, socioeconomic issues, broader policy considerations that actually change how we have to do the work. And so as a sense maker, you have to navigate your internal cross-functional teams and stakeholders and helping them navigate some of that, where I think traditionally that would have not really been the role of a CSR professional when people think about the traditional execution or the application of the job, which is corporate philanthropy, it's employee volunteerism, it's things that are not really connected. Well, they're connected to all these other elements, but I think traditionally we have been thought about in our different like silos based on the subject matter of what we do. So as a sense maker, to me, it is very important that CSR professionals, they start to better understand the interconnectedness between external factors and the business, geopolitical, the geopolitics, understanding the shifts in the economy. Right now, one of the things that we're all grappling with is technological advancements around AI. How is that changing the way that we work? How is it changing how we support partners that might have like workforce development programs for job seeking age youth, right? And I think that's how we have to start thinking about our role. And it starts to change the type of skills that we need to possess as a result of that.
I love that term sense maker, and we might have to use that moving forward. It's so perfect, and it really does describe, when you truly are an advisor, a consultant, a counselor to the C-suite in your organization, that you have to have your finger on the pulse, right? You have to know what's going
Yep.
on in the community and the environment and how it's affecting business, and almost being the translator between those two, right? Yeah, that is great. So it sounds like you've got a lot of experience. What advice or lessons learned do you most often share with members of your team or with other CSR professionals? Your experience, expertise, all of that.
So, based on my previous response as sense maker, I think about my time as a consultant. So, I was a consultant for 2 years, and one of the things that we did a lot of is cross training. So, the advice that I always share with my team is to not stay within your comfort zone of your knowledge or the subject matter that is like designed within your role of responsibility. That I think sometimes inadvertently acts as a silo that then prevents your development or prevents your ability to gain a different perspective or to gain a different skill set. And as a consultant for 2 years, what became very important is to pick up the trades of others that you worked with, this subject matter, exposing yourself to new and different, and really thinking about learning the business and also understanding the link between the work that you do and the enterprise. And I think if you're able to cross train, it allows you to do two different things at the same time. I think on one hand, it allows you to step in to support your team when and where they need that, given all the social and environmental changes that are happening, and also recognizing that resource constraints exist right now across corporate responsibility more broadly. So being adaptable, right? Cross training allows you to do that effectively. The second thing is, and I think this is really important to CSR or corporate social impact. Cross training, it also allows you to better understand how traditional forms of corporate responsibility, like philanthropic giving and volunteer engagement, can actually be positioned and leveraged as a solution to the business challenges that you might be experiencing, right? Unless you're able to understand the linkage between your work and other aspects of the business and cross train and to gain different bits of knowledge, it hinders your ability to position corporate responsibility as a business solution.
I love that. And, it's something that we've been telling members, particularly over this last year, when there's increased scrutiny around the work, and the value of the work, that, if you are able to tie it directly to business imperatives, business results, which also requires you, as you said, to understand the business, right? You are in a much better position in the company than if you can't. Right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. So just a couple more questions. So considering, as we just talked about, the current landscape in corporate social impact and how it's affecting professionals, what do you say the essential things are that they should be making a priority? What should they really be focusing on at this point?
Well, that's a tough one. With so many competing priorities, the one thing that I know is constant throughout all the different things that sort of come across our desk on a day-to-day basis is that change is constant. So what I generally share in terms of prioritization is how can you prioritize or schedule your day so that you're adaptable to change. Um, if we know that change is constant, and that is the only constant, then I think we have to focus on the things that are within our control to actually um, influence or to actually do. And I think once we're able to do that, it becomes easier to understand what your non-negotiables are, the things that you absolutely have to do in the day to be successful, and then the other things that you can maybe deprioritize or shift as a result of that. Right? You have your, you have your non-negotiables, but then you also have all of these other things that might end up just being noise. And so that's the thing that I think we have to focus on. We have to focus on adaptability because of all the change. And then with that adaptability in mind, it's really focusing on the things that are within our control and also anticipating so that we can prepare ourselves and then also prepare stakeholders in advance of change that we might anticipate on the horizon.
That's great. I think all of our members can relate to having days where you come into the office and your entire plan is thrown out the window because there are priorities that come into place that maybe aren't yours, but maybe they need to become yours. So it's great advice to be resilient, to be adaptable, and not focus on the shiny objects so much, right? To be
Mm-hmm.
planful and resilient. I love that. All right, we're going to end with one fun question. Who is somebody that you admire and why?
I'll be honest, this one was really, really difficult for me. So when I think about admiration, it's something that is deeply personal to me. And there are a number of people that I admire in who they are, what they do, and also like their behaviors. So I think rather than talking about somebody by name or title, because there are so many people that are on a list, and I say that sincerely, I will talk about things that I tend to admire in terms of traits and behaviors that I think are thematically across many of these folks. And these are traits that I see exhibited that I can look at and also aspire to achieve and to incorporate myself. And so I think there are two very specific traits that come to mind for me. There's one's ability to persevere when things are incredibly difficult. And where my brain is going on this is most people who know me personally know this, but I'm an ultra marathoner and an endurance athlete. And so
Wow.
there are a lot of ultra marathoners that I look at and I admire because of their grit and their determination. And that shapes how I think, and it also shapes how I um, um, come into the office and how I work and how I show up in the workplace and how I show up across the different projects that I lead. The other thing I'll also share is the other thing that I, admire in others is, and this is not unique to one person, but I've seen this across many business leaders, is their approach to taking on new projects and tasks. And
Mhm.
I think Richard Branson is probably one name that actually comes to mind right now. His philosophical belief on new projects and new tasks is to say yes to it immediately, even if you don't know how to do it. And then the idea is that you say yes, and then you become the expert to do it. Pick up a book, watch a video, but invest in your own development to actually be able to do that thing that you just said yes to. And that's a great way to learn, but it also allows you to remain open-minded and flexible at new opportunities that you may have not immediately thought about.
I love that. It's that old improv tenet, the yes and, right?
Mm-hmm.
You say
Yeah.
yes, know that you'll figure it out, know that there are people and resources available to you, and you can figure it out. Be resilient, right? I love it. Great, great advice, Jerome. I want to thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing your experience, your journey, your wisdom. We'll be doing more of this with other leaders in CSR, and I always learn so much just from talking to folks like you. So I want to thank you again for your time and sharing your insights with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you and to share a little bit of insight.
Thank you.